Hi guys, he is probably the greatest storyteller of our age, has readers spanning across the world, and it's estimated to be somewhere around 350 million, which is more than the population of the United States. He is in India today for a 4-day visit to launch his latest book, the 7th in a 7-long volume of the Clifton series. I'm delighted and privileged to introduce my guest, Sir Geoffrey Archer. Lord Archer, thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ron.
Well, it is said, Lord Archer, that if there was a book written about the life of Sir Geoffrey Archer, it could have also been an international bestseller. Yet you refrained from writing an autobiographical account. Why is that so?
Well, in a way, the Clifton Chronicles, the 7 volumes, are autobiographical because people have noticed, of course, that Harry Clifton, born in the back streets of Bristol, whose father was a docker, wins a scholarship to the local grammar school, and goes on to greater things. It's based on me. They will have noticed that Emma, who he marries, is based on my wife Mary, and Maisie, Harry's mother, is based on my mother. So it's pretty autobiographical, and a lot of people have who've read the 7 volumes have noticed that.
But why have you not gone out and actually written an autobiographical account, and you leave it to your readers to draw these inferences? And because there's also, Harry is great friends with Lord Barrington, and many people have again inferred that as your close friendship with Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, Margaret Thatcher comes into the final book in a big way, because she and Emma become friends, and that changes Emma's whole life. But the answer is I don't want to write an autobiography. I'm a novelist. I tell stories. I never want to stop that. And this particular group, the Clifton Chronicles, has been the most exciting project I've done in my life. And the way I'm being treated again in India is just staggering now. This morning I spoke to just under 2,000 people, signing books for 2 hours. It's wonderful. The Indian people treat me so kindly.
In fact, many of us, including myself included, I think we've sort of, it's shaped our thinking, our understanding of the English language also to a great extent by reading books of yours over the years. In fact, I've got a copy of mine, The Prodigal Daughter, which I'm going to get it signed by you. It's, by the way, a 1989 copy, so it goes back, what, 27 years?
The Prodigal Daughter follows Cain and Abel,
exactly,
the most successful book I've ever written. But The Prodigal Daughter is the story of the first woman president of the United States.
You saw it in 1982.
28 years later, and it still hasn't happened. Go, wake up, America!
In fact, I want to. I will delve a little deeper into that. But in Comet, in your last, the 6th book, you do introduce your viewers, your readers to Bombay. Is there any reference to India in your last book?
No, that was a big thing when Harry's son, Sebastian, falls in love with an Indian girl, but she's already, their parents have already decided who she's going to marry, and she breaks away from that. And I did a lot of research over here before I wrote. That's Cometh the Hour, that's the 6th in the series of the Clifton Chronicles. I did a lot of research with 3 particular women who'd been pledged to their husband in arranged marriages. One didn't happen, one did happen and was unhappy, one did happen and was a success. So I was able to listen to the 3 of them and steal from them and put it into what I think is a very romantic story, when a man, an Englishman, falls in love with an Indian lady and can't marry her because the parents don't think he's the right person.
Have you had friends, over the years who probably have had have wanted to marry into Indian families, and did you draw any inspiration, learnings from that?
Certainly one particular girl in this country who was stunningly beautiful and stunningly bright. I mean, she was a typical modern Indian lady. I just couldn't understand. It was beyond me. And one must never interfere with anyone else's religion or country. You just sit on the outside. I told her, I said, if I was 40 years younger, I'd be trying to marry you. I mean, the man is a complete nutcase. And she left the country.
Right. This was the man. This is the book.
The final one in the
final, the 7th one. So it's been a long sort of you know, a lot of effort has gone into it.
At the age of 70, I made the decision to challenge myself. I was then going to write 5 books.
Does that break away from your, you know, the pattern of Jeffrey Archer's writing?
Well, my wife had just become chairman of the Science Museum, and the Queen had made her a dame. So I thought, I've got to do something, Jeffrey. You can't just sit here and do nothing. So I set out to write these 7 books in 7 years. It's been a tremendous challenge.
Since you're telling us that, you know, like this sort of 7 series, the 7 volumes, and it's sort of loosely based on your life, are you also then giving us clues, even before we read the book, of something that we can perhaps predict?
Certainly, if you read the 7th book, and I like to believe all 7 books can be read separately.
Okay.
If you're literally, for the first time, thinking about this, I would go and get Only Time Will Tell, the first book. Because if you don't like the first one,
I love the first one.
Oh, you love it. There you are.
The first one.
There you are.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do. But the 7th and final one will tell you what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
Oh, wow. So if you want to know more,
it's
Sir Jeffrey Archer's book.
It's hidden in there.
Therefore, it's
but you need to be very bright to understand.
I will try my best. I will try indeed my best. But I want to now ask you about the philosophical underpinnings of your writing, because I think it was in your first book, Only Time Will Tell, where I think, you know, Harry is talking to, I think it's somebody in his home, and he said that sometimes it's an advantage to be disadvantaged. And he gives the example of Jane Austen, said that if Jane Austen had gone and had a university education, then her writings might not have been insightful. What is the larger message, Jeffrey, that you're trying to, send out? And is it also trying to sort of reassure those people who may not have had a fortunate upbringing?
Well, I'd take it further with Jane Austen, Ron. One of the greatest writer-storytellers that ever lived. If she'd gone to university and had a formal education, it's possible she wouldn't have written at all. It's possible she would have become a lawyer, become a teacher, become a doctor, and never written. It was the fact that she was cooped up in that little village, writing marvelous pieces like Pride and Prejudice, that the whole world captured them. And indeed, in my own case, I got there by mistake as well. I left the House of Commons at the age of 34 in terrible debt. Couldn't get a job.
£40,000?
£400,000.
Oh, £100,000.
Couldn't get a job, and sat down and wrote Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less.
1977?
And that, exactly. And that was the beginning, and I discovered I had a second talent. I wonder how many of us in life end up, as Proust suggested, doing the thing we're second best at.
Exactly, and because that's what you said was your second career choice. Now, looking back, in hindsight, the sort of success that you've had, would you still say that? I mean,
well, if you ask me,
would you have been a more successful sort of politician?
Well,
maybe the Prime Minister?
I'd have probably been Under Secretary of State.
And saved Brexit, perhaps? I don't know.
I voted to stay.
Yeah, I know.
I probably ended up Under Secretary of State for Transport, which I'd have been very valuable in this country as Under Secretary of State for Transport. It's exactly what you need at the moment, is me in your charge of your transport system.
Did you get caught in the traffic?
Well, that is a silly question, Ron, because I've never not been caught. I'm much better now. I'm much better. 20 years ago, I used to scream and shout at all the drivers. Now I just sit back. I'm in India. Relax.
And you've been in India. This is what, your 3rd visit in the last 4 years?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So have your publishers told you, like, I mean, what percentage of your readers are coming from India? I mean, what's your sense?
We don't understand it. We don't understand it, Ron. I spoke this morning. 1,700 people came to hear me speak. I was signing books here in New Delhi. I was signing books for an hour and a half. Other English authors don't understand it. I can't explain it. But since Cain and Abel, it's never stopped. Never stopped. Generation after generation. And by the way, I'm very flattered, and I think it's wonderful. And I think I'm very lucky.
Even your short stories, A Quiver Full of Arrows, and some of the short stories, I think they're widely read, admired.
Yeah. I love short stories. Though you've got one of the greatest short story writers that's ever lived, R.K. Narayan.
Yeah.
One of the greatest short storytellers. I learnt a lot from him. Brilliant ability. He takes an Indian of no significance in a small village of no significance you've got to turn the page.
Yeah.
And that was because he was a brilliant storyteller.
Right. In fact, you actually preempted my question. I wanted to ask you any Indian author that you really
He's my
admire.
hero. He's certainly the one who combines storytelling and writing, that rare combination. And I agree with Graham Greene, a great English writer. I agree with Graham Greene that R.K. Narayan should have won the Nobel Prize.
But didn't.
But didn't.
You spoke about Cain and Abel, and I have seen that immigrants or people who've come from other countries and gone to the U.S. and all, they have played a very sort of pivotal role in your plots. Perhaps in Cain himself, I think, had come from Poland. Now, in the context of what you're seeing around the world, is this very strong anti-immigration sort of rhetoric, of course, sort of exemplified by Donald Trump on one hand, Brexit. And we're seeing this pretty much across Europe, the rise of far-right parties, and the central sort of pillar of their sort of outreach is, to sort of stop the flow of immigration. Are you concerned, worried? How do you sort of look upon the debate that is kind of unfolding around the world?
I think it's madness. Often the next generation in a country are the new immigrants who take it to the new stage. We're very aware in Britain that the Indians are upwardly mobile, ambitious, and more important, damned hard-working. And they've taken Britain to another stage. I was at the Royal College of Surgeons a few weeks ago, and I said to the President, I can see one or two Indians here. He said, come in 10 years' time, Geoffrey, and half the people in the room will be Indians, and those were doctors.
Wow.
So the effect you've had on our country is fantastic, and we would be foolish to not think that that could happen again. And once you stop people like that coming into a country, you're cutting your own throat, in my opinion.
But what's happening? What is going wrong?
Well, the Trump phenomenon is strange, and I speak here as a world expert because I said that Britain would remain. We lost. I said Trump couldn't possibly become the candidate. He didn't. He did. I said, well, that's all right. He can't be president. He is. So I speak with a lot of authority. I got everything wrong. But what I have learned is that the people now, the voters now, and in the United States, I think the case was that the voters, some of them had never voted before, and they saw a non-politician. They saw someone who didn't rely on the normal and conform. I'm going to vote for him, they said, and they voted for him in great numbers, and he will be the next president.
Because there's a lot of genuine angst against this establishment, I mean, how do you then address that?
It's very tricky for someone who's, say, 45 years old. They've spent 20 years in politics. They've learned how the House of Commons or the Senate works. They're used to getting a bill through the House. They're used to serving constituents. To suddenly find someone who's never been a local councillor, who's never been a local mayor, who's never sat in Congress or the Senate, suddenly President of the United States. Would you go to, my thing is, would you go to your surgeon and say, look, I need a heart operation. I know you've never done one before, but they tell me you're a good chap. So could you perform a heart operation? It's ridiculous. If we're going to throw out all politicians, it will end in disaster.
Would you, during the moments like these, do you sort of regret not playing a more sort of an active role in politics?
Well, I'm 76.
Yes, precisely, in the past.
I'm not anymore a young thing.
Donald Trump is a few years younger than you.
I'm ready to take him on.
So therefore, in that situation, I mean,
well, I'm still
fascinated.
I'm still fascinated. I had the great privilege of meeting your Prime Minister when he was in England a few weeks ago, and yes, I'm still fascinated by politics, and I followed the American election, as you can imagine, on a daily basis, and got that right, didn't I?